In this lesson, we're going to cover arc flash, temporary power, panels, lighting, and satellite boxes, also known as spider boxes, electrical outlets, GFCI or ground fault circuit interrupter, and tools and extension cords. On job sites, working around electricity can be very safe as long as you properly identify and mitigate the hazards. OSHA named electrical exposure as one of the fatal 4 leading causes of fatalities in the construction industry. Once you understand these hazards, the tools we have available, and the procedures Southern Air has in place, there's no reason for you to be exposed to electrical shock, electrocution, fires, or explosions associated with electricity. An electrical arc flash is a serious and often deadly incident that can occur when working in energized panels. It's unbelievable what happens during an arc flash, and even with the appropriate PPE, there's no guarantee you will survive. If you are standing in the restricted boundary area during an arc flash, as this example illustrates, you would experience the following: shrapnel in the form of molten metal that exceeds speeds of 700 miles per hour, extreme temperatures of up to 35,000 degrees, which is 3 times hotter than the sun. Sudden blasts of pressure waves can throw you across the room. You can suffer fatal burns even if you're several feet away from the arc. Clothing can ignite from 10 feet away unless proper PPE is used. Arc blasts are also so loud they can cause hearing loss. An arc blast can have a sound magnitude of 140 decibels 2 feet from the arc. That's like standing directly behind a jet engine as it takes off. Because of these extreme dangers, Southern Air also mandates that no electrical hot work should ever be performed. One exception to this is when the employer can demonstrate how de-energizing would create additional or increased hazards. An example of this would be hospital de-energizing a work area that would affect life-saving equipment or surgical procedures. More commonly at Southern Air, electricians and service technicians are potentially exposed to arc flash hazards when troubleshooting electrical issues in the energized state. Once issues are identified, the energy source must be de-energized and isolated for repair work to be conducted. Additional training is required to troubleshoot or perform work on any circuit greater than 50 volts. This requires arc flash training and special PPE requirements and permits. Temporary power panels provide safe, reliable interim power for construction sites by bringing power from overhead or underground electrical utilities. A temporary power panel for a construction site typically consists of a meter socket, circuit breakers, and receptacles wired together in a weatherproof housing. They should always be secured on a wall or pedestal. At Southern Air, our electricians have developed easy-to-use temporary power panels. While some can still be found attached to plywood frames, this is not ideal. The temporary panel on the hand truck is something we are very proud of, as it allows electricians to easily make power safe, ready, and available, while also being easy to transport to, from, and around construction sites. However, Southern Air is not always the electrical contractor on site, and therefore not providing the temporary power. Regardless of who makes the temporary power on a job site available, it's always up to you to ensure it's safe before using. One of the methods Southern Air embraces for safe power usage are spider boxes. Spider boxes plug directly into temporary power panels and are placed strategically throughout job sites to give 120-volt electrical access to all subcontractors. This allows a safe method for contractors to utilize their electrical tools, which plug directly into these boxes. Temporary lighting will either be 120-volt stringer lighting or 24-volt LED lighting. 120-volt lighting should always be hung in a non-conductive manner with splices that are wire nutted, electric taped, and no lower than 8 feet from the floor. Stringers must have bulbs in place, illuminated, and secured cages. 24-volt LED lighting is the preferred method of temporary lighting at Southern Air. LED lighting is extremely durable, low voltage, and additional lights are easy to add. Many of the risks associated with 120-volt lighting is eliminated with the LED solution. The regulations for electrical outlets, switches, and panels must be followed at all times, as they may not only lead to shock hazard, but violations may also lead to hefty OSHA fines. Outlets, switches, and panels must be secured and mounted to prevent movement. You may see energized outlets laying loosely on the ground. You may not plug into these outlets, and they should be identified to your supervision. All outlets must have covers in place in order to be utilized. There may also not be any open holes in the sides of outlets. Open holes need to be sealed with push pennies prior to plugging in. Unsafe conditions should be reported to the electrical contractor on site. Ground fault circuit interrupters, commonly referred to as GFCIs, protects you from shock, detects the difference in the current between the black and white wires. It takes a GFCI 1/40th of a second to shut off electricity if a ground fault is detected. Currents above 10 milliamps can paralyze or freeze your muscles. Currents more than 75 milliamps can cause a rapid, ineffective heartbeat. Death will occur in a few minutes unless a defibrillator is used. 75 milliamps is not much current, and to give you a better understanding, a small power drill uses 30 times more. Using GFCIs are a Southern Air standard. You must always plug power tools and extension cords directly into a GFCI. You may never plug directly into a wall outlet without GFCI protection. Extension and power tool cords are part of your everyday job. Southern Air makes 3-wire type flexible extension cords designed for hard or extra hard usage available to you. We also offer many power tools equipped with double insulation to protect against electrical shock. Poorly maintained cords, connectors, and equipment can expose you to electrical hazards and shock. Always inspect extension cords prior to usage to ensure they're not missing ground pins, tears to the insulation, or frayed ends. It is also not permitted to daisy chain extension cords in any scenario. The 5 areas we're going to focus on are strain relief, durability, cord damage, grounding, and wet conditions. To reduce the strain on cords, flexible cords must connect to devices and to fittings in ways that prevent tension at joints and terminal screws. Flexible cords are finely stranded for flexibility, so straining a cord can cause the strands of one conductor to loosen from under terminal screws and touch another conductor. OSHA requires flexible cords to be rated for hard or extra hard usage. Usage ratings are required to be marked along the length of the cord, as you can see here. A flexible cord may be damaged in dozens of ways or could simply be getting too old. If the electrical conductors become exposed, there is a danger of shocks, burns, or fire. When you notice damage to a cord or its interior is exposed, you must remove it from the field immediately. It is never authorized to use black tape to repair cords. Extension cords must be 3-wire type so they may be grounded and to permit grounding of any tools or equipment connected to them. Power tools must also be 3-wire type or double insulated. When a cord connector is wet, electric current can leak to the equipment grounding conductor and to those who pick up that connector if they provide a path to ground. Electric leakage can occur at any wetted area of the cord. Limit exposure of connectors and tools to excessive moisture by using watertight, sealable connectors and elevating extension cords in wet conditions. Key takeaways. Electricity is an invisible killer. No hot work is authorized without prior approval. Inspect all extension cords before use. Look for missing pins, tears to insulation, and frayed ends. Never daisy chain cords or use black tape for repairs. Temporary power is always mounted to a wall or pedestal. Check power boxes and outlets before plugging in. Be on the lookout for holes, missing connectors, and loose plates. You must use a GFCI when plugging in by using a ground fault pigtail directly into your power source.